Good evening and welcome to the Dollar Dogs and Beer podcast. I am your host, Andrew. Joining me tonight is Joe. How are you holding up tonight, Joe, as our teams face off both on the diamond and on the gridiron tonight as well? Who would have thought that was going to happen?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm hanging in, hanging in. It's a
Good.
Monday, that's for sure.
Dude, it was a Monday of Mondays today. You're not wrong about that. Let me tell you, working retail pharmacy on a Monday when shots are coming in, we were slammed. What can you do? Well, Joe, what are you drinking tonight?
I'm drinking nothing, and I don't know. It's just I can't make sense of this past weekend with the Cubs. I can't make sense of this week with the Cubs already. So I level head is just not going to work this week. I've got nothing.
That's fair. That's very fair. At least the Cubs didn't give up 28 runs in 2 days. You have that working for you at least. For me, I'm going to continue my run of sours. I've got one more red, white, and blueberry, and then I also have here it is. I also have from Dogfish Head. This is the Sequence Ale. They don't call it a sour, but it's definitely at least a tart. But it's kind of like a nice lime ale, nice little end of summer kind of beer. I thoroughly enjoy it. My wife thought it was way too sour, so I have been the happy recipient of the entire six pack minus half a beer.
There you go.
It's unusual when I get lucky enough to pull that off, as you know better than probably anybody. All right, let's roll it out. First of all, uh, to the good Philadelphia fans out there, I am so sorry that Philadelphia Karen is now associated with your fan base because, yes, to be fair, Philadelphia has earned its share of crap over the years. Very well deserved in many cases. Like the guy that threw up deliberately all over the guy and his daughter. That was disgusting. When I was at an Eagle, and I know Eagles fans and Phillies fans are two very different type of Philadelphia fans. I can deal with Philadelphia Phillies fans pretty well. It's even though it's a division rivalry, it's the Braves and the Phillies don't have a hate rivalry like the Braves and the Mets and the Phillies and the Mets do. There's some respect there, and there's also not that close geographical proximity. Whereas Eagles fans are among the most bloodthirsty, vicious fans I've ever met in sports, having spent one game and exactly one game at the Link, and that's all I needed to be at the Link. Many years ago, when my brother turned 16, my dad got us all tickets to go down to the Link for the Vikings and Eagles. And that was the game that got postponed to like a Tuesday because of snow or some wintry weather nonsense that happens when your brother's born in December. So at that game, well, I got some good-natured guffing from the guys around me in my Adrian Peterson jersey before Peterson ripped him apart, and they were like, "Yeah, we kind of expected this by the end of the game." The guys in the section just to my left were quite a bit more inebriated, and when a father and son were walking by just to get back to their seats in the section to our right, took a horrendous amount of verbal abuse from the extremely intoxicated fans. So thankfully, I will give Philadelphia much credit on the security. They were there basically within 5 to 10 seconds of it starting, and almost that entire section was cleared out. So I give the stadium security a lot of credit for that because there's things you don't do, and one common thread in all of this is you don't screw with kids. Well, apparently that was not the choice that the lady being known, who now has the internet moniker of Philadelphia Karen, she apparently missed that lesson. So Phillies are down in Miami. So first of all, it wasn't even in Philadelphia. This was in Miami. So like you're already in the minority here, Karen. Just chill your jets. Harrison Bader rips a home run. She does not catch it. The kid's father comes over, gets the ball, gives it to the kid. Kid's happy and celebrating because one of his favorite players hit a home run and he got it. It's awesome. And then here comes Philadelphia Karen, who comes over and verbally abuses the man so badly He grabs the ball out of his kid's hand and just gives it to her to get her the hell away from them. How many times have we talked about this year that there's a line that fans need to stop crossing? Because I feel like we're having this conversation more and more and more frequently, and it's really starting to piss me off that we have to have it this often, because we shouldn't. Now, I give the Marlins and the Phillies a ton of credit. The Marlins PR team, somebody got a word to them very quickly. And they sent out a goodie bag full of all sorts of merchandise and stuff. And then they also got word to the Phillies. And Harrison Bader met with the kid after the game and gave him an autograph bat. First of all, props to Bader for doing that. He didn't have to do that. He could have just signed the bat and sent it to the kid, but he wanted to meet the kid personally. And I give him all the credit in the world for that. He's a good guy. So I'm glad the kid made out great, because the kid's the one who should have made out great. He's a kid, and it's a freaking baseball game. Like, what the hell? Like, Joe, why do we keep having this conversation? What the hell is wrong with people?
I mean, look, in maybe 10 years ago, this isn't all over the place. Obviously, social media has a lot to do with the widespread knowledge of these idiotic fans anymore.
It's true.
So, I mean, look, I think, the father handled it perfectly by just trying to diffuse the situation and let it, that's the better lesson, to be taken from this. And, like you said, Bader came through and took care of the kid. And at the end of the day, you'll hear the players say this a lot of times too, where it's a kid's game. And you're not going to have the next generation of fans, you're not going to have the next generation of players if we forget that, both as fans and as players. That it's important for the game to continue, and for the game to continue, the fan base has to grow across the league. And what better place to start than the kids, to be sure.
Absolutely. There's a reason when Ron and I went to the Phillies game last year, 2 years ago now? Last year. Anyway, when we went to the Phillies game, where we were, how left field kind of like cuts back towards the line. We were like 3 seats off the very outer part of the fence. Great seats. I'd sit there again in a heartbeat. But you didn't see the two of us running down, steamrolling a bunch of kids to get all the balls the ball girl was tossing up in the stands. Like, we'd put our hands up, yell, whatever, but we're not going to knock over a bunch of kids to get a freaking baseball. That's ridiculous. And just the fact that her brain was wired to the point that she believed she had the right to be doing what she was doing. I just can't with people like that. Like, come on. Ridiculous.
Look, I mean, we say it often, obviously, but these things just happen, and obviously there's a choice made in certain instances, but when you combine baseball with beverages and morons become morons, and people who normally may not act that way act a different way, and it's unfortunate, to take away from what was otherwise probably a really nice ball game. That's the story coming out of it, not the rest of it.
Agreed. And again, props to the Phillies, props to the Marlins for handling it perfectly. If from what I've read since, the Phillies will not issue her tickets anymore, and good to them for that. I've heard back and forth as to whether she was actually identified and fired from her job. I had seen reports that she's like an administrator at a school, and that they had received so much negative mail from community members that she was fired. But then I also saw that that might not have been true. So I don't know if it's true or not. I mean, if Frankly, if she works around children, she probably should be fired if she can't restrain herself from stealing a ball from a child. I did see one school, a neighboring school district did make a post that she never was an employee of their school district, and you would know that because if she had worked for them, she clearly would have caught the ball, which I thought I thought that was a great response. So glad there.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of fun that gets had on both sides of things. I think that the important, I think, things we know are true. Obviously, the fan acted the way she shouldn't have. The father diffused the situation perfectly. Both teams kind of took care of any issues with the situation perfectly, and props to Bader, like you said, for all the good that he did out of it.
And one other thing I'm thoroughly enjoying on the internet is the number of either parodies or memes that are being made. I saw the Savannah Bananas did it out in San Diego, and that was hilarious. They used the Grinch, of course. I saw one earlier of that somebody photoshopped her stealing a Frisbee from a dog. I saw one of her surrounded by dogs saying that ball's not going anywhere. The internet is, as it often does, is it's doing its job in this case. And at least the entertainment value is high. I will definitely say that. So, yeah. Anyway, well, let's move on to happier news that's quite a bit less depressing. So it's hard to – you don't often get to see guys as actively playing move up into the top 5 or top 3 or top 2 of anything in their franchise, but we got to see that this past weekend. Jose Ramirez passed Jim Thome and is now number 2 all-time in Cleveland franchise history in RBIs with his 938th run driven in his career. The only man left to beat is Earl Averill, who is at 1,084. So, if Jose has another realistically, he needs 2 productive seasons, maybe 2.5. And he's definitely young enough that his name will be on top of that leaderboard, definitely I would say in the next 2.5, 3 years, maybe.
What's his number again?
He is at 938. The leader's at 1084. So it's, 150 some, 140 some.
Yeah. I mean, depending on how he does the rest of this year, and then what kind of year he has next year, that's not outside the realm of possibility with his skill to be at the end of next year, but definitely within a year, within 2 years, year and a half, he should be there.
Yeah, I mean, let's remember he's only good. He turns 33, I think, next week. Yeah, September 17th. He's just about to turn 33. He's in the middle of his prime. That record's going down. It's his.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
And good for him too. He's been one of the best third basemen, arguably the best third baseman in the league for quite some time now. So, hey, props. Keep it going, man. Anytime you can knock Jim Thome off of a Cleveland record, that's hard to do, man. Good job. All right. And speaking of Cleveland, let's move it into the playoffs because Cleveland is not currently they're not in yet, but they're looking much better than they were last week. So in both leagues, no changes at the top. It's still Blue Jays, Tigers, Astros in the AL, and that is and that's all that's the seedings right now. NL, Brewers, Phillies, Dodgers. Joe, I'm feeling even better than I did last week about saying the Brewers will hold on to that top seed. I'm not seeing it with the Phillies injuries, but we'll talk about them in a couple minutes. Cleveland, though, they have moved to within 2.5 of that last wild card. So right now, wild card number 1 is the Yankees at 80 and 63. They're 5 up on the last wild card. The Red Sox at 79 and 65. And remember, the Red Sox do have the tiebreaker against the Yankees, 3.5 up. And the Mariners are clinging on to that last spot desperately, although a huge weekend in Atlanta helped that. 75 and 68. And then right behind Seattle, Texas is a 1.5 games out. The Royals are at 2 out, and Cleveland is at 2.5 out. And I will mention the Rays. The Rays aren't out yet, but the Rays are at 4. So a lot more help needed for Tampa Bay to get back into it. And bless you. And I'm not feeling as confident saying Tampa Bay could. This is the point in the year with 3 weeks left, 4 games back. That's a bit high of a mountain to climb. So we will mention they're not eliminated yet, but things aren't looking great. So Joe, do you like? Given our thoughts from last week and how the standings have changed, are you still liking the? Do you still like the 6 teams that are in right now in the American League, or do you think one of the 3 teams outside the wild card have a chance to catch? And let's also remember the AL East is definitely not done yet, and actually, the AL West isn't done yet either, because that's 3.5 between the Red Sox and the Jays, and 2.5 between the Astros and the Mariners.
Yeah, I mean, look, to me, I think, unfortunately, when you look at the last week or last 10 games, really, um, with Houston and Seattle having the same record in those 10 games, you're not going to take them over if you can't flip that script and flip that number. Um, and as long as, even a mediocre week at this point, um, for the Astros, if the Mariners don't sweep both series in a week, it's really not going to make a difference. They may get within a game, but it feels like to me, I feel like for sure, I did undervalued the Astros just as an organization at the beginning of the year, because they were able to make things happen and get on a few runs and take this division over again. Um, I would be very hard pressed to believe that the Mariners are going to overtake the division. Um, and I mean, like you said, technically the Rays aren't out, but 4 is an awful lot of dominoes that have to fall around you, not just your success.
Mm-hmm.
So them going 7-3 in the last 10, yeah, it's great. If they go, 7-3 in the next 10, it may not make any difference at all. Um, even if they go 9-1 in the next 10, it could mean nothing. Just because you have so much other stuff that has to go your way, um, down the stretch. So I don't necessarily see too much changing here. I think, um, like you said, Texas has a shot at overtaking Seattle. I think, Kansas City could if everything falls right. Um, the Guardians could overtake them. Whether it's worth it for them to overtake them is probably the other question. Um, Given the fact that, and this kind of broke like toward the end of our show last week, that the previous administrative leave for Clase and Luis Ortiz got extended from the end of August to until further notice. So they're not going to likely have them before the playoffs anyhow. Um, so it's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, if you get there, how good are you going to be able to be with? I know they have a lot of good pitching that they've promoted in the last few weeks, um, to be in the position they're in, but I just don't know that it's going to be enough when you have, arguably one of the best closers in the American League, at least, not pitching for you.
Yeah.
Um, I will say this, I do find this a bit ironic that this investigation into 2 guys that we've not heard any dollar amounts at all has taken a lot longer than a $16 million investigation for Shohei Ohtani. But I'm not surprised at this point. I mean, there's just no way to justify this at this point. And at this point, you know, MLB is just dragging this out as long as they can.
Yeah.
There's suspicious wagering that MLB was made aware of at an Ohio sports book back in June. Um, but like, and are there some pretty obvious, red flags with when you start looking at some of those things with those two pitchers? Absolutely. But again, it just seems to me like if this were Aaron Judge, this investigation would have been over 2 months ago when it started. So the fact that this investigation's continued this long, either there's a whole lot of fire and there's a whole lot more people involved, or they're going to look like clowns at the end of this. I think MLB is regardless because, like we've talked about before, half the teams have FanDuel Sports Network or DraftKings Sports Network as
Yeah.
their team's network. They all have gambling operations right outside the ballpark.
Mhm.
At some point, we've got to figure this part out of the sport.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, if Cleveland gets there, who knows how much momentum they're going to have and how well they're going to do. Um, I think, given Texas's track record the last couple years, they still have Bochy in the dugout. I feel like they're the most likely to take the Mariners out. So
Mhm.
that's the spot that I think definitely changes in some way. I
Yeah.
just don't know yet which way that's going to go, and I think we'll know more even this time next week. We'll know for sure kind of where that's going.
Yeah. I mean, I think for Seattle, this week is do or die because they've got a week 7 game slate with, and they're at home for they're at home all week. Uh, Cardinals for 3, and then Angels for 4. And then next week they go to Kansas City, and then the huge series next weekend at the Astros. So, if Seattle is going to make a move either to go for the division or to hold off the oncomers in the wild card chase, now's the time to do it. Like, now's the time
Yeah,
to wrap or get off the pot.
yeah. If they have another 4-6, 3-4 a week or whatever, it ain't happening. And
And this,
you're gonna be outside looking in when you have more talent than God in the pitching rotation, and like there's no excuse for this.
yeah,
Year after year, there's no excuse for this.
they just they need a manager who can get them over the hump, and they have not found the right combination of player talent and management talent and GM talent to do it. And I love Jerry Dipoto. Dealing Jerry's fun. It's fun to see what crazy ideas and deals he pulls off in the off season and at the trade deadline. But it's at some point you've got to figure it out. And I'm not sure they've got the right I don't know if they've got the right manager to push him over because they've been close how many years now and haven't got it. Seattle has the longest losing playoff series losing streak, correct? Or damn
Well,
near it.
damn near. I mean, they haven't been in the playoffs for what, 23 years now, 22 years now.
It's been a while.
Um, so I mean, it, it it's not a question of talent at this point. It's a question of longevity and being able to maintain it the whole year, and they still haven't been able to do that.
Yeah, let's see. They did make the playoffs in 22. They got swept out of the ALDS. Yeah, 2001 when they won 116 games is the last time they won a series.
Right.
They were knocked out by the Yankees in the ALCS that year, so they got out of the
And
division round.
and 22 is the year that like, you know, one of those things where yeah, they made it, but they didn't go anywhere with it. Um, and I don't think making it was good enough. I mean, obviously it was a long time to get there, so making it was okay, but like you have the talent the last 3 seasons to be able to make a lot of magic happen in Seattle, and it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I mean, let's remember in 22 they were 16 games behind the Astros for the division that year, and that was the year the Astros did beat the Phillies to win the World Series. But yeah, and Seattle also hasn't won the division since 2001. So, I mean,
Right.
they've definitely been due. Like they're long past overdue at this point. And the last 3 years, taking that 16 out, I mean, they're 2.5 out right now, 3.5 out last year, 2 out in 23, 5 out in 21. And I know they were 9 out in 2020, but 2020 was what it was. Um, you know, this is if Seattle's going to make the move. I think it has to be this week. If they don't go, they have to go 5-2 this week or 6-1. And I think, and if it's going to be if it's going to be 5-2, it's got to be 2 losses to the Cardinals, not not getting beaten up by the Angels. So
Yeah, I mean it's definitely.
just my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's got to be a big week, and I think 5-2 is the minimum bar.
I do not gonna lie, I'm kind of bullish on the Rangers' chances of perhaps catching the Mariners or even theoretically catching the Astros. The Rangers are only 4 games out in the division, although that is a bigger ask, but they've got some momentum right now. But the thing I love about the Rangers is their pitching this year. And DeGrom has been healthy this whole time, and God, I hope that continues. Baseball owes us healthy DeGrom in the playoffs. It's been way too long, and we need to see some healthy DeGrom pitching in the playoffs. And so far, so good. So I wasn't sure. See, Texas was floundering a lot of the year, and they've really turned it on since the All-Star break. So it could they hit another Cinderella run? It's not impossible. It's not likely, but they are only 2 years off of a World Series title. It's definitely not out of the realm of possibilities.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts in the American League?
I mean, I think I feel like that AL East is starting to become. I I mean, again, if they don't, if the Yankees or the Red Sox can't put together a better week than they do, or a better 10-game stretch than they do, then they're not going to overtake the Blue Jays, who I, I don't expect them to win this division. I expect the Yankees probably to overtake them, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's just not enough.
I mean, the Yankees are doing the job right now. They are 7-3 in their last 10. They did chip off a couple games from last week, and more importantly for the Yankees, they've gotten a little bit clear of the Red Sox, which they need to do, because if I remember right from looking up the tiebreakers last week, Toronto has the tiebreaker with the Yankees. The Red Sox have the tiebreaker with the Yankees. So the Yankees have to burst clear of everybody, to hold on to the higher spots. And I think, let me see.
Toronto has the tiebreaker with the Red Sox too.
Okay,
You said last week.
Yeah, but Boston has it over the Yankees, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the
Yankees don't have it over anybody.
Yeah. What a pity. What a freaking pity. I know we're all heartbroken that the Yankees have no tiebreakers right now. But the Yankees right now, they're getting it done. They're getting it done. They're 7-3 in the last 10. Boston and Toronto are kind of languishing a little bit at 5-5. So yeah, it's, again, and we saw last week, schedules are not easy for any of those 3 teams closing out. I think we thought the Yankees had the toughest road to the finals, but it's not going to be an easy ride either way. I mean, this week is because the Yankees did take 2 or 3 from Toronto this weekend. So this week the Yankees have Detroit at home, and then starting tomorrow night, and then Boston in Boston this weekend. So that's going to be a monstrous series there. Toronto has, let me see. Toronto has Houston and Baltimore this week, which Baltimore's apparently not a team to screw around with right now, as we'll get into in just a moment once we're done with the National League. And then Boston, before they have the Yankees, they're on the road in Oakland this week. So, they're not Oakland, Sacramento. It's going to take more than a season to break a lifetime of habit here. Give me a break.
Just call them the A's. It'll make it easier.
Yeah, but I don't like calling them the A's because it bumps Atlanta down one more in the freaking drop down on every list, because it goes Arizona, Athletics, Atlanta. No. You're in Sacramento right now. You should be down near the S's where you belong, not as pisses me off. Anyway, I know.
Well, I mean, Atlanta's used to be down lower on the list this year, so why not?
Boy, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. How far down the list are we? Do we even want to talk about that? No, I'm good. But hey, they're only 2 games behind Oakland for being behind Oakland on the list. Thank you. The Athletics, excuse me. God, that's going to screw me up all night now. Anyway, so let's move it into the National League now. The race in the West now, it's still a game, but neither LA nor San Diego could do diddly squat with it, as both teams are 3-7 in their last 10 right now. It's like San Diego doesn't want to catch the Dodgers, or the Dodgers don't want the division. I can't really tell which right now. The Phillies, some concerning injury news that got mitigated somewhat. Trey Turner, another hamstring, but they're calling it a grade 1, and they do expect him back for the playoffs. And Alec Bohm was put on the 10-day IL today with some shoulder issue. I think shoulder inflammation is what it was. So the Phillies are, they're down two pieces on the offense. I think the Phillies are still safe. They're 7 games up on the Mets right now. I mean, it's going to take one hell of a collapse for the Phillies to fall behind the Mets, and I don't see that. Jason posted the magic numbers earlier. Phillies' magic number for the playoffs is 9, and the number for the division is 13. So I'm not, to be honest, even with these injuries and with Wheeler being out, it's not the easiest playoff path that the Phillies could have had before, but I'm not super concerned, if I'm being completely honest, Joe. I don't think the Mets are going to put enough of a fight to catch them. Now, maybe we'll be surprised by next week, but I'm not worried about it right now. I do think it basically locks up the Brewers as the number 1 seed in the NL. I don't think that that's going to change. That would be a hell of a collapse for the Brewers to give up the 6 back that they have on top of the Phillies right now. Now, looking at the wild card, the Cubs are 5 clear of the bottom at 81-62. The Padres are 2 clear at 78-65. And the Mets pretty much consolidating their hold at this point. The teams behind them are the Reds and the Giants at 4, and the Diamondbacks and the Cardinals at 4.5. I think we can essentially say the NL is set. I think seeding is not set, certainly, but I think the 6 teams are pretty much set. Of the teams at 4 and 4.5, I would say maybe the Reds would have a chance to make things interesting, but I truly don't think any of the 4 teams at 4 and 4.5 really have a realistic shot of sneaking into that last wild card spot. I mean, unless the Mets have a true Mets September, which always possible, and their pitching to get to Diaz has not been spectacular lately. Diaz has been fantastic as usual, but the pitching to get to Diaz has not the most spectacular that we've seen.
Yeah, the Mets fans have turned on that Helsley deal pretty damn quick, given his performance lately. And I don't necessarily blame them.
I kind of feel like I knew Helsley was a bad idea when I got burned by him in fantasy baseball a few years ago and said, fuck it, I'm never taking him again.
Well, I mean, I think the thing with Helsley is, and we've had this conversation numerous times before, when it comes to Josh Hader, when it comes to Ryan Presley, like when you take a closer, a guy who's been closing forever, and you move him into a different role, there's a mental adjustment that happens. And
yes,
a mental adjustment is not to be had in the middle of a playoff run. It's just not. Now, fortunately, like you said, I think the Mets, hopefully, I mean, they'll have enough cushion to stay in the playoffs, and it won't necessarily impact getting in. And hopefully they can figure some things out between now and then, to really solidify the bullpen additions they made. I think that's certainly something to be said for as far as how they handle things with that. The only reason I think with the AL, like you said, there's a whole lot of stuff at play, and it's probably likely that this is the 6 teams for the NL, but given the fact that the Reds have, I think, 3 against the Brewers, if I'm not mistaken, at the close of the year, the last weekend, and they have 4 left with the Cubs. There's just too much against contending teams. They're playing San Diego this week. There's just too much unknown right now. I think once we get through this week, because I know it's San Diego. I forget who they have at the end of the week, but
It's
um,
3 at San Diego, 3 at the Athletics, 3 at the Cardinals, and then 4 home against the Cubs. 3 home against the Pirates, and then 3 at Milwaukee to close out. Yeah, that you're right. That's kind of a brutal road stretch home.
yeah, it's a brutal stretch, but I think they just have too much left against contending teams for. And with the Cardinals being in your division is not necessarily about contention; it's about pride.
Yeah,
I mean, those two are within a half a game of each other, so they're all still playing for something. Every team that the Reds are playing against. So,
except for the
I,
Pirates.
yeah, except Pirates is interdivisional, but anyhow,
Yeah,
um, I think there's still a heck of a lot for the Reds to play for, and they're playing against tough competition, and there's a chance that the bottom of this wild card gets shaken up a bit. But I do think, um, you know, we're pretty close to it. I think we'll know a heck of a lot more come next Monday, with the Reds, how they do with the Padres, and if the
yeah,
Dodgers continue to be on the downslope as they seem to have been in the last week or
yeah.
so. That's there's a chance that, to me, the one that has the most chance of getting in of the outside teams is the Reds.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't see it with San Francisco, for instance. Although San Francisco's going to stick it to the Dodgers, they always do. And speaking of that, that's the weekend series. San Fran, it's 3 at home versus Arizona, 3 at home versus the Dodgers, 3 at Arizona, 4 at the Dodgers, and then Cardinals Rockies to finish out. I mean, they're going to end on a freaking 3-game winning streak probably because the Rockies can't fight their way out of wet paper bag this year. But it's I don't like that for the Giants at all. They're gonna screw with the Dodgers because that's what they do. But I that's why I don't think the Giants should be one of the teams considered as, even though they're not eliminated, they still have a shot. Yeah, okay, buddy. Not so sure about that.
I mean, having what was it, 6 or 7 against the Dodgers yet?
7.
Um, yeah, I mean, having 7 against the Dodgers, like we talked about last week, um, these two teams do not like each other, and I think, um, to me, that's why I think last week, I was pretty confident the Padres were going to win that division. So, like you said, the seeding's not ironed out yet, but I do still kind of hold to that opinion that the Padres are going to win the division from them.
Yeah, to be honest, even though the Padres didn't play great last week, getting swept by Baltimore before taking 2 out of 3 in Colorado, I still like the Padres' path to be able to take the division. This week it's 3 versus Cincinnati, 4 versus Colorado, and then they go on the road for 6. They're 3 at the Mets, 3 at the White Sox, and then they close out with Milwaukee and Arizona. But again, Milwaukee in the last week, odds are they're going to have the first seed locked up, and they're not going to be playing starters, at least not starters for full games. They'll play guys enough to give them a couple of bats, keep them loose, but Milwaukee's going to be shutting guys down before too much longer at the rate they're going.
Yeah, it's likely they do that. I think if the Reds are on the cusp of knocking the Cubs out for some strange reason in the next couple of weeks at that time, I expect the Brewers to just lay down, and I don't blame them.
No, why would you risk players getting hurt?
Yeah, especially if they have a chance to get the Reds in the playoffs and knock somebody else out. Because I mean, nothing. They still have a 5-game lead on the bottom of the wild card? Yes, but the Cubs. I mean, I'm going through it like I talked at the beginning of the show. I mean, you lose 2 of 3 to the Nationals when you shouldn't lose 2 of 3 to the Nationals. And now your closer situation's up in the air because Valencia is out. You have Tucker, who hasn't played since Tuesday but still isn't on the IL. Um, make that make sense. But
Yeah, I know.
so there's a whole lot of mismanagement with the Cubs. A lot of the guys are cold. Some of them are banged up a lot worse than we're led to believe on a daily basis as in Cubs Nation. So to me, there's just an outside chance, and I've seen this film before, where the Cubs are going to find a way to crash out and be third wild card or be on the ropes the final weekend of the year. And I certainly could see it happening. Is it likely to happen? I don't know. I'm not going to say one way or the other, but I could see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So that's where we're at right now. I you know we're you heard it here, folks. We're both pretty confident that at least in the NL, the 6 teams you see today are the 6 teams you're going to see in a couple weeks. But it'll be curious to see if the seedings change at all. So, yep, that's where we're at for the playoffs. Let's move on to one of the most incredible games I think I've ever seen. Yoshinobu Yamamoto was pitching absolutely incredibly against the Orioles. He had a no-hitter going through 8 2/3. And not even at a hatefully huge number of pitches. When Jackson Holliday came up and he fell behind 2-1 and just left a cutter middle in, and Jackson Holliday cranked it over the wall in right center. And at that point, no hitters gone, shutouts gone. That's not a point where I take issue with Robertson pulling his pitcher like I did when Kershaw had the perfect game going. So that's when, Orioles fans, first of all, they were there to celebrate Cal's streak. So Jason mentioned in the group chat, it wasn't Big Jim who said this, but another one of his Orioles friends had said, the Orioles need to stop celebrating things this year because bad things seem to happen on the days we celebrate things. Because that did happen a lot this year. I do feel for the Orioles fans, especially with a team that we had at least some hopes that they would at least fight for a wild card spot and not malinger down near the bottom. But anyway, Holiday hits the home run, and they pull Yamamoto out. Huge ovation from the crowd, because let's remember the start of the 9th inning. When he came out to pitch, he was getting a standing ovation from the home fans, because you don't see no hitters very often. We haven't seen one this year yet. So, you always cheer a guy that's pitching that way. I don't care if they're for you or against you. I remember watching Randy Johnson perfecto the Braves, and I'm not going to lie, I was cheering for Johnson by the end of the game because you never see it. It's such a rare occurrence. So, Yamamoto gives up the home run, and then Blake Treinen came in, and Treinen was he was loose, but I don't think he expected he was going to have to come in and pitch. He quickly got ahead 0-2 to Jackson, and this would be a common thread throughout this Trenian's entire appearance. His accuracy got so far away from him, he was not getting any of the corner calls. The Dodgers announcers might have a little bit of a gripe on the sweeper on the 1-2 sweeper that might have caught, might not have caught, but you can't doubt that the pitch that went to 3-2, that was very low, and then he left a double middle up, and Jackson roped that for a double, and then Gunnar came up. First pitch was way off, and then he got to 1-2. And then he hit him right on the top of his foot. And then he walked Ryan Mountcastle. And again, other than the one pitch, I'm sorry. The second pitch was a strike likely in the zone. But again, when you're wild and all over the place, the umpire is not going to give you that. So Mountcastle walked, and then Cowser walked. The only pitch he took was 3-0, which was a cutter basically down the middle, before watching ball 4, which was again low, before they finally said enough's enough and pulled him out, brought Tanner Scott in. And Tanner Scott didn't fare well because, Rivera hit that single, and the Orioles improbably, with I think it was a 0.2% chance of winning, somehow not only blew apart the no-hitter, but came back in the same damn inning, all with 2 outs, mind you, to win 4-3 against the Dodgers. Holy
You know, coaches dream about 2-out rallies, but no one could have predicted a 2-out rally like that.
no.
Just phenomenal. And you know, like you said, Trinian probably was loose, but he wasn't ready to pitch because nobody expected him to have to pitch.
And Tanner
I
Scott
think.
was even less ready. He was pumping pitches as fast as he could because Trenian couldn't find the strike zone.
Well, and at some point, I mean, like you said, you're not going to get the benefit of some of those calls if you're not able to locate it early.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of Trenian's issue on what was that Saturday night. So, I mean, that's definitely a factor. You know, if you can't locate early, they're not going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Um, and that's what you saw. So, I mean, I'm not surprised by that, you know, in any way as far as Trinian's performance goes and Scott's performance. I mean,
Yeah.
Scott came in with the game on the line basically, and he wasn't ready for that, and nobody was.
No.
It's hard to be ready for that when you were expecting to A, never get up, and B, never be in the game. Um, you know, hats off to the Orioles for making something really special out of something that was already going to be special
Yeah.
in some way.
Hell of a flip
I
story.
I do think it's pretty crazy. You mentioned it. We haven't had a single no hitter all season, and it's just you wonder what's causing that. You wonder what's creating those scenarios where it's just not happening like it used to. We used to at least get one by the end by the beginning of August. Now we don't have any, and it's you've got 3 weeks left.
It's wild that we haven't even had a combined no hitter yet.
Yeah, it's really impressive. I think just how much harder it is to pitch than it used to be. I think. I
Absolutely.
think just with the amount of film that's available for hitters, with the amount of tendencies that's available for hitters, you know, I when I took the tour of PNC this year, they have in their batting cage, they have the hologram where you can actually see how the guy delivers. Like the guy
It's
delivers
crazy.
the guy delivers the batting practice pitch to you exactly like he looks when he's on the field. So with the amount of technology out there, it that part now is less shocking, but it's just the amount of data that's there, the amount of analytics that are there, and we do, you know, there's a place for analytics and there's a place not to have it, but the amount of analytics they have pre-game, you know, pre-series with these teams, it's crazy.
It really is. It's absolutely wild. Um, Camden Yards, they have only hosted one no hitter since it opened in 1992. That was when Hideo Nomo threw a no hitter back in April 4th, 2001. So, first of all, it's crazy that the second no hitter was almost another former Japanese League star. Second of all, I do want to give lots of props to the Dodgers, or to all the fans at Camden Yards, for giving Yamamoto that standing ovation as he left, as you should, because that's just so impressive. Another crazy stat for you, talking about long time since a no hitter. The Dodgers haven't thrown a no hitter since 2018. That was May
Wow.
4th. Combined no hitter: Walker Buehler, Tony Cingrani, Yemi Garcia, and Adam Liberatore. It was a combined no hitter against the Padres in Mexico. The last solo no hitter for the Dodgers, Clayton Kershaw, which, first of all, that's not a surprise, but it was June 18th, 2014, against the Rockies.
Wow.
No,
That's mind blowing with as long as Kershaw's been pitching for them. That's just crazy.
it
I,
really is. And the last time the Orioles were no hit was by the Mariners, Hisashi Iwakuma, back August 12th, 2015. So
now
that's crazy.
that Nomo no hitter was he on the Dodgers or the Red Sox by
Reds,
then?
Red Sox at that point.
Okay. I was
Yeah,
gonna say that would be pretty ironic too that it would be a Japanese player on the Dodgers again. But um, that's just crazy, man.
it's wild. Yep. So that's where things ended up from there. The Orioles, for all the bad that they have had this year, They did start September really well, winning 5 of their first 6, including 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers this weekend. I mean, something's not quite right in Dodgerland, and they really need to work and get that picked up because the playoffs are not far away.
Oh, I'm so sad for the Dodgers. I'm
I
so
know,
sad for the
I know.
Dodgers.
Heartbroken to watch the defending champs just scuttling. Oh no, they might not be the first team to repeat since the Yankees. Oh no, I'm heartbroken. Can you tell?
MLB's got to fix that. I'm sure they will by the time the playoffs roll around.
Oh God, you're not wrong. Oh no, that's terrible. Toss up to Saturday Night Live. Thank you very much. All right, let's roll it. Let's roll it over to Down on the Farm. We have one more week of minor league regular season after this, so I'm just going to keep it simple. We're going to stay in the International League in AAA, and let's see. Let's go with yes. I think we're going to highlight one of your prospects, Joe. Carlos Perez of the Iowa Cubbies, one of their catchers. In 6 games last week, he had 25 at-bats. He slashed 520, 556, and 1080. That's an OPS of 1.636. He had 8 runs, 13 hits, 2 doubles, 4 homers, 11 RBIs, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts, and, surprisingly for a catcher, a single stolen base. So, explain to me why he's not up in Chicago right now.
Well, to do that, we'd have to open a book because I can't explain half the shit anymore. They brought Casey up. He probably played in a grand total of 3 or 4 games. They sent him down. They brought Kevin Alcantara up when rosters expanded, and he's probably played in 3 or 4 games. So, and the philosophy right now from Council is, well, with the extra guy, we're not really playing a man down. And it's like, but you are.
But you are.
And you had 2 of your starting outfielders out yesterday. One of them back in the lineup tonight. I don't know how he's doing. Clearly not well, given the score. But you have PCA and Tucker out of the lineup over the weekend. And Tucker hasn't played since Tuesday. So, and the mantra of them has been, well, we figure he could play before a stint is up. And it's like, I don't freaking care. You tried that before.
Yep.
You gave the guy 1 day off. You've given the guy 5 days for a calf strain or a calf issue when you let him play through a broken finger.
Yeah.
I love him, for Christ's sake. You could have had Casey up here. You could have had Ballesteros up here, who's another great catcher who can hit. Your offense is not doing it, and now your bullpen is starting to fall apart with your closer falling apart and having a 8.46 ERA in the last 14 times he's been on the mound. So,
just a prediction: he's not going to make the adulting reliever this week, is he?
Well, no, he wouldn't. Why would he? So,
yeah, dude, I feel.
There's no reason that the Cubs shouldn't have some of these guys up and playing, and instead they go out and sign Billy Hamilton, and I don't know if he's actually going to come up or not. They signed him last week right before the September 1st deadline. So we'll see if that actually comes to fruition or not.
I hope so. I really do. I love Billy Hamilton. I love the fact that the speed demon is still finding ways to sneak onto major league clubs late in the year and cause some havoc. Love that guy.
Yeah.
Good arm, too, honestly. He's not just a speedster. He's got a really good arm. All right, our minor league pitcher this week for Down on the Farm. We're going to go to the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, the AAA affiliate of the Miami Marlins. We're going to talk about Robbie Snelling. Robbie Snelling had a great week last week. He only had 1 start, but he went 1-0 through 7 innings, and it was a complete game because the game was called early. 7 hits, 1 earned run, did not allow a home run, did not walk anybody. 13 strikeouts. That's an ERA of 1.29, a whip of 1, and a batting average against of 269. It's not too shabby.
Nope, not at all.
Definitely better than I could have done. I can say that with absolute confidence.
I mean, let's be serious. That bar is not very high. So
No, it's not, because I am at best I am a junk ball knuckleball guy anymore. Although I used to throw a pretty decent knuckleball. Actually, not a bad split fingered fastball either. I just didn't have a high octane fastball to back up the split fingered fastball. It broke real nice. It just wasn't going to confuse anybody because I wasn't a velo arm, and we kind of cared about that back then. All right. Before we go into the hot list, just some scores from around the league right now. In the NFL, the Bears are up on the Vikings 7-3. Well, that's crap. And more importantly, especially for Jason, the Phillies are up 1-0 on the Mets going into the top of the ninth. So I believe we're going to be seeing a certain fanfare entrance in Philadelphia not too long from now. All right, let's move it into the hot list, and let's see here. I think for me this week, giving him a lot of crap this year. All right, I'll go 2 this week. Number 1, I'm going to go Julio Rodriguez of the Mariners. Not the greatest average at 283.08, but the slug was up at 840 and the OPS was at 1148. 25 at bats, 7 runs, 4 homers, 11 RBIs, a stolen base, 7 hits, 2 doubles, no walks, 6 strikeouts. And one guy that I've given an inordinate amount of crap to this year because, well, let's face it, he's earned it most of this year. Ozzie Albies had a great week last week. He slashed in 24 at-bats. He slashed 417, 440, 792, OPS of 1232. 6 runs, 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 10 hits, a double, a triple, 1 walk, and only 2 strikeouts. So, yeah, I've given Ozzie a lot of crap this year, but I will give him the props where they're due this week because that was a very good week batting. Too bad it's too little too late for the season. All right, Joe, who's your top hitter this week?
well, I'm gonna do a couple just because there's a few things to highlight. So, first, Stephen Kwan from the Guardians. Now, these numbers don't sound all that great, but the last number will. 308, 379, 346. 4 runs on 8 hits, 1 double, 4 RBIs, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts, and 5 stolen bases.
Jesus. 5?
Yeah, 5 stolen bases for Stephen Kwan. So,
Boy,
if the Guardians are going to pull this off, they're going to need him to do it, and that's a heck of a week for him.
Boy, if you're playing Roto, you were begging for him. Holy crap. That's a killer week for Roto. Jeez.
And then the second one I've got is Colson Montgomery from the White Sox. 238, 393, 524. Again, not the greatest average numbers, but 8 runs on 5 hits, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, 5 walks. He struck out 8 times, but 5 walks. So when you take the hits, 5 hits and 5 walks, the guy scored 8 runs on his own. So 80% of the time he got on base, he scored. Like that's awesome.
That's productive like you can't beat.
Yeah. And then the last one is Joe Adell from the Angels, 391, 440, 957. 5 runs on 9 hits, 1 double, 4 homers, 10 RBIs, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, a stolen base.
Hey, that's not too shabby either.
No.
Yeah, a lot of good hitting performances this past week. Very happy and surprised to say that. All right, let's look here. Let me go to my pitchers.
Moneyball.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead with Moneyball. Why is this?
Sorry.
Sorry.
The Moneyball hitter of the week this week is Vlad Jr. from the Blue Jays. 619, 667, 1048 on the slug. That OPS 1715 is just absolutely nuts. 8 runs on 13 hits, 3 doubles, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 3 walks, 1 strikeout, and a stolen base somehow. It's not very often that the big guy gets a stolen base. So
it's really not, but holy hell, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right.
So an excellent
moving to
week for him.
pitchers. My number. Yeah, I know I have him in my family's fantasy league, and thank God I did because I needed it. All right. So this week, my top pitcher, I'm going to go. My number 1 guy is going to be Hunter Green. 2 quality starts, went 1-0, 13 and a third. He gave up 2 earned runs, 6 hits, 3 walks, only 1 home run, ERA of 135, whip of .68, and get this, Joe, 19 strikeouts in 13 and a third.
Wow.
That's not too bad.
No.
That's not too bad. You know what? I'm going to highlight, even though he lost the game, I'm going to highlight it. Mr. Yamamoto, 8 2/3, obviously a quality start, 10 strikeouts, 1 earned run, 1 hit, 2 walks, 1 home run, 104 ERA, and a .35 whip for the man who is that close to pulling off the first no-hitter of the year. Hell of an outing.
Very much so.
You know, it's not often we highlight the guys that make one start, but if you come one out from a no-hitter, you've earned it, even if it's your only start of the week.
Yep.
All right, Joe, fire away some pitchers.
So I'm going to have 2 pitchers. They're both going to be relievers that I'm going to highlight, and then I'll have an adulting as well. So Luinder Avila from the Royals, 3 appearances this week, 4 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. That whip is at a 1 even, and the batting average 214. So a pretty solid week for him and as much work as he got. The other one is Jackson Rutledge from the Nationals. 1-0 in 4 appearances. No save opportunities for him, but having 4 appearances and being a pitcher, a record of 1 is pretty sweet. 3 1/3 innings, 3 hits, 3 strikeouts, no runs for him.
That's not too shabby. Not at all.
Nope.
All
and
right.
then your adulting reliever is Yennier Cano from the Baltimore Orioles. 3 appearances this week. He has a 1-0 record and then 1 for 1 in save opportunities. So consequential efforts all around for him.
Yeah.
3 innings pitched, no hits, no runs.
Well, damn. Yeah, that's a good week.
Yeah.
No arguments. All right, hot teams. Well, you know, I'm going to go with Baltimore. I know they're only 6-4 in the last 10, but they opened up with 5 straight wins in the month of September, after not doing much all year. And I also want to highlight. The Guardians, because the Guardians, as we mentioned earlier in the playoff stuff, they're playing well enough to actually force their way back into the wild card conversation. Will it continue? We'll have to see. But it's not looking hateful right now that they could at least make some noise. Who do you have on your hot teams?
I think the Brewers, just because they continue to stay warm and put that division on ice if it wasn't already. It's hard to believe that the Cubs had an 8-game lead in this division at one point. Like it's just wild to me.
Yeah.
The Phillies continue to stay warm, and the Rangers as well.
All right. Please note it. We are not talking about the top 2 teams in the National League West, which neither team could play their way out of a paper bag last week. Gotta love it. All right, Joe, anything else for you this week?
Not at all.
All right. I do want to make one local shout out. Our alma mater, Warwick High School, is off to a 3-0 start in football. I can't even remember the last time that's ever happened. So congratulations to the Warriors. Let's continue it this week on the road trip to Solanco. Also, Warwick's marching band took first place in the competition at Cedar Crest this past weekend. So it's been a very, very good time to be a Warrior alumni, especially for fall sports. All right, guys, audio recordings are available on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, anywhere you can find podcasts. We're live on YouTube and Facebook. Merchandise is at redbubble.com. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/dollardogsandbeer. We are presented by Dark Arrow Podcast LLC and sponsored by the fantastic guys over at Barron Barbershop in Manheim. May your dog always cost $1. May your beer always be cold. We'll see you next week.